The air outside felt heavy that afternoon, like the sky knew something was wrong. I was in my last class, waiting to leave for band at my base school, when the intercom crackled. "All students and staff, we are now on lockdown. This is not a drill." The room fell silent. My teacher locked the door, turned off the lights, and told us to get down. My heart pounded in the dark. Then my phone buzzed a news alert. Someone had posted on Snapchat, cleaning their guns with a chilling caption. And then the next line made my stomach knot. A bus at another school in the district had been shot at. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. My dad was at my base school, the school mentioned in the threat. I tried texting him, "Are you okay?" But the message just spun, unsent. No delivery. No reply. The minutes stretched into an hour. Every sound outside, every shuffle of footsteps, every click of a door made me flinch. It didn't matter that they said nothing. In that silence, your mind fills in the gaps. You start to imagine the sound of gunfire, footsteps coming down the hall, someone testing the handle of the door you're hiding behind. When the intercom finally came back on, the principal's voice was too steady, too rehearsed. "Students scheduled to go to their base schools will now board the buses." I blinked. What? The threat was at the base school. Why in hell would they send us there? But the teachers herded us down the hallway anyway. Their nervous smiles stretched thin like plastic wrap over panic. The hallway felt wrong. Too quiet, too empty. Every fluorescent light above us buzzed faintly, flickering like something out of a bad dream. I stepped onto the bus and pressed my forehead against the cold glass. Outside, the world looked normal. That's the worst part about days like that, how normal everything looks while you're convinced something is about to explode. The ride felt endless. Every turn felt like it could be our last. I kept checking my phone, desperate for a message from my dad. Nothing. When we arrived at the base school, everything looked dead. The parking lot was empty, except for a few police cars parked crookedly near the entrance. The officers stood outside, like shadows, hands on their belts, eyes scanning everything. We were shuffled into the gym, locked down again. Only this time, we were in the very place someone had threatened to shoot up. They turned off the lights, and the gym transformed into a cavern of echoes and shadows. The bleachers creaked under the weight of students shifting nervously. Someone whispered, "Why are we even here?" But no one answered. The sound of the gym door locking echoed like a gunshot. My breathing grew shallow. My dad could be anywhere in the building. If something happened, I wouldn't even know where he was. I imagined the threat, whoever they were, walking through the same hallways I'd spent years in, weapon in hand, deciding where to begin. The thought crawled under my skin and dug in deep. Then came the worst sound of all. Nothing. No announcements, no updates. Just us, sitting in the dark, listening to our own heartbeat and the faint creaks of a building that suddenly felt alive. At some point, a girl started crying softly beside me. Another whispered that someone saw movement outside the gym doors. Rumors spread like wildfire in the dark. Someone swore they heard footsteps in the hallway. Someone else said they saw a shadow under the door. Nobody knew what was real anymore. Fear makes everything sound closer. I gripped my phone like a lifeline. Still no message from my dad. When the lights finally flicked on an hour later, it wasn't relief that came. It was confusion. Lockdown lifted, the teacher said, like it was nothing. Just like that. As if the terror of the last few hours had been a brief inconvenience. They herded us out like sheep who never needed answers. I found my dad in his classroom later, pale and exhausted. He'd been in lockdown too, crouched behind his desk with his students. He hadn't even known if I made it to the school safely. The system that was supposed to protect us had failed in every way. But the story didn't end there. As buses were being loaded to take everyone home, someone realized a special ed student was missing. They had been lost during the chaos, slipped through the cracks while everyone was panicking. Nobody noticed until the end. A sick chill went down my spine when I heard it. If someone with a gun had walked through those halls, that student would have been the easiest target. Forgotten. Alone. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the silence pressing down like a weight. The official story would never match what it felt like inside those locked rooms. They'd call it a precautionary lockdown. They'd talk about ensuring safety, but in reality, it felt like we were nothing more than sitting ducks. Sometimes, even now, I can still hear the gym door locking in my head. I can still see the flickering lights and feel that sick, heavy dread pooling in my stomach. The threat was real, the fear was real, and the silence from the people in charge made it worse. And the worst part? They never caught the person who made that threat. The day had been painfully ordinary until the intercom crackled to life. This is a lockdown. I repeat, this is a lockdown. Secure your doors immediately. This is not a drill. Mr. Haynes froze, then locked the door and killed the lights. The class huddled behind his desk in silence. The hallway outside felt heavy, like something was waiting just beyond the door. "Phone's silent," he whispered. "No talking." My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. We'd done plenty of lockdown drills before, but none of them felt like this. The silence of the hallway, the way the announcement ended so abruptly, the way Mr. Haynes kept glancing nervously at the door. A girl named Riley clutched my arm. "What's happening?" she mouthed. I didn't have an answer. Then we heard footsteps. Not the usual quick, echoing rhythm of a teacher hurrying between classes. These were slow, deliberate. The kind that made every hair on my neck stand on end. Whoever it was stopped right outside our door. The handle moved. Someone was trying to get in. Mr. Haynes held a finger to his lips and grabbed the metal ruler from his desk. The door was locked, but the way that handle turned, it wasn't a student playing around. It was too controlled. Then came a light knock. Not frantic, not friendly, just 3 slow, measured taps. Riley whimpered. Someone else let out a quiet sob. The handle stopped moving, but the presence on the other side of the door lingered like a shadow breathing against the wood. Then footsteps. Slow, dragging, unhurried. Minutes felt like hours. Whispers drifted faintly from other rooms. Then the intercom crackled. "Do not open the doors for anyone." It wasn't the principal's voice. It was raspy, wrong. The lights flickered, and for a split second, a distorted shadow appeared at the end of the hall. A door creaked open. Someone hadn't listened. A scream tore through the silence, raw, sharp, real. Riley buried her face against my arm, shaking. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." I couldn't breathe. More footsteps now, faster, coming back. Then a bang on our door. So loud it rattled the glass panel. We jumped as one. Another bang followed. Mr. Haynes pressed his weight against the door, motioning for the strongest boys to help him. Something on the other side rammed into it over and over. I felt every vibration through the floor. The pounding stopped as abruptly as it started. Heavy breathing followed. Then, laughter. A low, broken laugh that dragged like metal on concrete. It moved away again. We stayed like that, crouched in the dark, for what felt like forever. My legs went numb. The silence became worse than the noise. Every creak of the building sounded like a threat. Then, without warning, the fire alarm went off. The shrill, piercing wail filled the hallways. Half the class flinched and some started crying. Mr. Haynes yelled, "Nobody move! Stay down!" He knew it too. It was a trick. The pounding returned. This time, from farther down the hallway. One door after another. Like something was testing each classroom. 1, 2, 3. Our turn was coming. I gripped the floor, my nails digging into the tiles. The pounding reached the classroom next to us. Screams erupted. Not rehearsed, not fake. Then, a single gunshot. I think my brain stopped working in that moment. It wasn't something you could mistake. It wasn't something you forget. The hallway fell silent again. 15 minutes later, the police sirens, flashing red and blue, seeped through the window blinds. Over the intercom, the principal's trembling voice returned. "Police are on site. Stay where you are." When officers finally opened our door, I saw them first shields, rifles, shouts of "hands up." Then I saw the hallway. There was blood smeared along the lockers, a trail leading toward the east wing. And a body bag. They never told us who or what had been in the building. Rumors spread. Some said it was a masked man. Others swore it wasn't a man at all. But one thing burned itself into my brain. When I looked at the classroom door as they let us out, I saw 3 perfectly round marks where something had scratched the wood, right below the handle. 3 knocks, 3 marks, and they never caught anyone. The hallway of my middle school was a 2-story echo chamber. When the bell rang, 2,000 students filled it with a storm of noise lockers slamming, shoes scuffing, voices overlapping. During lunch change, the chaos was at its peak when a muffled announcement cut through the air. All students and staff, we are on lockdown. This is not a drill. Most people didn't hear it, but I did. And when a teacher froze at the end of the hall, I knew something was wrong. Panic spread fast. Screams, banging lockers, crashing trays. No one knew where to run. I sprinted to my classroom. No teacher, no key, no lock. I killed the lights and pulled the door mostly shut. Footsteps and cries echoed outside. I waved a few kids in. 5 of us hid under the teacher's desk, holding our breath. Someone whispered, "Is it real?" No one answered. Then came the sound that made my stomach twist the hallway going quiet. Not completely silent, but quieter than it should have been. Whispers, footsteps, heavy ones, not running like students, slower, measured. The kind that made your brain whisper they're coming, even if no one said it out loud. The sound of footsteps echoed so badly, I couldn't tell where they were. Up the hall, right outside, it felt like they were everywhere at once. A girl next to me started to quietly cry. I reached out and squeezed her hand, more to calm myself than her. The doorknob jiggled. It wasn't loud, just a soft metallic rattle, but in the pitch-black room, it might as well have been a gunshot. Every breath in the room froze. The knob turned once, twice, then stopped. The footsteps moved away. My pulse roared in my ears. Somewhere else in the hallway, someone screamed, high and panicked. A locker slammed, another door banged shut. No one knew what to do. No one had ever planned for a lockdown during lunch. The intercom crackled again, but it was nothing but static and echoes. I couldn't make out a single word. It felt like we were on our own, trapped in that dark classroom, waiting for something to burst through the door. More minutes passed. Or maybe it was an hour. Time felt strange, like the air itself had thickened and slowed. My legs ached from crouching, but I didn't dare move. I thought about my parents. I thought about news headlines, about becoming one more story people would shake their heads at. Another shadow moved past the glass window in the door. Just a flash of dark fabric in motion. My heart seized. Every muscle in my body tensed, waiting for the door to open. But it didn't. The shadow faded away. Then, suddenly, the intercom crackled again, this time clear. All clear. Just like that. The lockdown was over. We climbed out from under the desk in silence, our faces pale, hands shaking. Outside, the hallway was eerily still. Lunch trays were scattered on the floor. Books and bags were abandoned mid-hall. Someone's shoe lay alone in the middle of the tile. The echoes were gone, but the silence was worse. It wasn't until later that the truth came out. A teacher's son had come to have lunch with his mom and forgot to check in at the office. Someone saw him, didn't recognize him, and called it in. Protocol followed. Lockdown activated. No gun, no shooter, just a mistake. But that didn't make it feel any less real. The sound of the doorknob shaking still echoes in my head sometimes. The heavy footsteps in that long hallway. The way fear makes time stretch and walls close in. Even knowing it was a false alarm doesn't erase the way it felt. You don't need a gun to feel like your world is ending. You just need a long hallway, a bad announcement, and silence that comes after panic. And that sound, the faint rattle of the doorknob, still wakes me up at night. I'll never forget my 8th birthday. I'd spent the morning arranging cupcakes and goodie bags, excited to share them. I was just a few minutes late, carrying everything carefully. As I ran across the playground, a teacher spotted me. She didn't ask questions, just grabbed my hand and dragged me inside, my cupcakes wobbling in my grip. At first, I thought it was just a regular morning rush latecomers get scolded, I figured, but the hallway felt different. Too quiet. The usual clatter of lockers, the hum of fluorescent lights, and the chatter of kids were all absent. My stomach churned as I noticed other teachers moving hurriedly, their faces tight and focused. Then the intercom crackled. "All students and staff, we are on lockdown. This is not a drill," the voice said, calm but heavy, the kind of calm that made my skin crawl. I didn't understand immediately. Lockdown? A gun? My brain struggled to connect the words. I remember looking at the other kids as my teacher hurried us into a nearby classroom. There were only a few of us in there, younger kids, still in our birthday excitement and confusion. The teacher flipped the lights off and pulled the door closed, turning the lock. The room felt like it shrank around us in an instant. We huddled under our desks, knees pulled to our chests. I could feel the small, shaky breaths of the other kids beside me, the way their little hands clutched their backpacks like lifelines. The darkness was total, just the faint glow from the hallway lights seeping around the edges of the door. Time slowed immediately. Minutes stretched impossibly, each second a weight pressing down on my chest. Outside, we could hear distant voices. At first they were soft murmurs, then loud, panicked shouts. Footsteps moved quickly, then slowed. Every sound made me jump. Every creak of the building felt like it was right above us. The teacher's hand rested on my shoulder for a moment. She didn't speak. I think she couldn't. We all understood, without words, that we were supposed to be invisible, silent, unseen. I clutched my cupcakes tightly. I wanted to take a bite to calm myself, but even that felt impossible. I stared at the ceiling tiles, tracing the little patterns with my eyes, trying not to imagine what might be happening outside the locked door. My mind raced. Was someone out there? Could they see us? I remembered hearing once that panic can make your mind fill in the blanks faster than reality. My imagination did just that. I pictured shadows moving along the walls, the glint of metal, the worst-case scenarios I couldn't shake. Hours, or maybe it was minutes. Time lost, all meaning past in that dark, cramped classroom. Eventually, there was a commotion in the hall, distant and muffled at first. Then a sharp sound, a single gunshot that made every small body jump. I couldn't tell who it was or what had happened, only that the sound was real and it hurt my ears more than anything else. The lockdown stretched on. I remember the teacher whispering reassurances, though I'm not sure she believed them herself. "It's okay. It's almost over. Just stay under the desk," she said, her voice quivering slightly. Outside, I could hear the sound of more footsteps, people moving quickly, and then silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel safe but waits, heavy, for the next thing to happen. Eventually, the intercom came back on. "Lockdown lifted," the principal announced. Relief washed over us, but it was muted. We had survived, yes, but the fear didn't leave so quickly. We crawled out from under the desks, pale and trembling, looking at one another for confirmation that everyone was okay. Later, we learned the truth. The gunman was a man connected to another class, the father of a boy in the neighboring classroom. He had come onto school grounds with a gun. Miraculously, no students or teachers were injured. The only casualty was the gunman himself, who took his own life outside the school. Even years later, I can remember the panic and the silence, the way time stretched and every sound felt amplified, the way fear filled the room more completely than any darkness. I remember the smell of the classroom, faintly of chalk and cleaning supplies, mixed with the faint scent of my cupcakes. The sound of footsteps and distant shouting still echoes in my memory. That birthday is forever etched into my mind. A day that should have been filled with candles, laughter, and joy became a lesson in fear, survival, and the fragility of safety. It taught me that even in familiar places, danger can arrive unexpectedly, and even in darkness, courage can persist. I never ate the cupcakes that day,